The sun was already low in the sky when Evelyn finished her shift at the hospital. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, slinging her worn canvas bag over her shoulder. Her feet ached from the endless rounds, but she felt a quiet satisfaction that came from caring for others. As she walked down the crowded street, the market buzzed with life vendors, shouting, children laughing, music drifting in the air. The scent of spices and grilled meat mingled with the heat of the day. She paused at a fruit stall to buy some oranges for dinner. That was when she heard it. The laughter. But not the happy kind. The cruel, sharp laughter that made her chest tighten. She turned her head, eyes scanning the crowd, and saw a group of teenagers huddled in a circle. In the middle of the circle, a young man with dark glasses fumbled with a white cane, bumping into boxes and bags. Someone threw a crust of bread at him. He flinched but said nothing. Evelyn felt anger spark in her chest. She stepped closer, her voice firm. "Stop it! Can't you see he's blind?" The crowd fell silent, their mocking grins fading. She moved to stand beside the man. "Are you all right?" she asked gently. The man turned his face slightly, his lips trembling. "Yes, thank you," he said softly. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble." His voice was calm, humble, the tone of someone used to being invisible. Evelyn shook her head. "You didn't cause any trouble," she said. "What's your name?" "Andrew," he answered. "I'm Evelyn. You look hungry," she added. "Have you eaten today?" He gave a faint smile. "No, but I'm all right." "No, you're not," she insisted. "Let me help you. Where do you live?" He hesitated. "Nowhere, really. Sometimes behind shops, sometimes near the church." Evelyn's heart tightened. "No house?" she whispered. Andrew lowered his head. "I get by." Evelyn drew a deep breath. "Listen, you're coming with me tonight. Just tonight. A hot meal, a place to rest." He pulled back. "Please, I can't." She stood her ground. "I insist. You need help." He paused, then nodded slowly. "May God bless you," he murmured. Evelyn took his hand gently, guiding him through the crowd. Some onlookers watched with curiosity, but no one stopped her. As they walked, she thought of her small apartment, a place she shared with her younger sister, Chloe. She knew Chloe wouldn't approve, but she couldn't leave him there. They reached her building, a faded pink structure that had seen better days. She led him up 3 flights of stairs, her heart beating fast. Chloe would be home soon, and she dreaded the confrontation. But Andrew needed help. That was all that mattered. Evelyn unlocked the door and stepped inside. "Welcome home," she said softly. Andrew smiled faintly. "It smells peaceful," he said. She guided him to the worn couch and went into the kitchen. She reheated some rice and stew, her hands trembling. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. Just as she was about to bring the plate to Andrew, the front door swung open. Chloe's heels clicked sharply against the tile floor. Shopping bags hit the ground. Then silence. "Evelyn?" Chloe's voice was cold, sharp. "Who is that?" Evelyn stepped out of the kitchen, plate in hand. "Chloe, please listen. Is that a beggar in our house?" Chloe's voice rose with disbelief. Evelyn's face paled. "He needed help, Chloe. He's blind. People were hurting him." Chloe scoffed. "So you made our home a charity ward?" Evelyn's voice shook. "It's just for one night. He hasn't eaten. He has nowhere to go." Chloe folded her arms. "You think this makes you a saint? You think helping some random street man makes you better than the rest of us?" "Stop it, Chloe," Evelyn said, her voice cracking. "He's human. I don't care, Chloe spat. You want to help him, take him somewhere else. Evelyn's chest heaved. I don't have somewhere else. This is my home, too, Chloe sneered. You know what? I'm calling Mom. She needs to hear about this. Evelyn felt tears prick at her eyes. Please, just let him stay one night. Chloe stared at Andrew, who sat quietly with his head bowed. One night, she said coldly. If anything goes missing, you both leave. Evelyn nodded, her breath unsteady. Thank you. Chloe stormed off to her room, the door slamming like a final blow. Evelyn turned to Andrew, her voice soft. I'm sorry you had to hear that. He lifted his head and gave a small smile. It's okay. I've heard worse. Thank you for standing up for me. Evelyn nodded, placing the warm plate in his hands. As she sat beside him, she felt a heavy shift in the air. The house had changed. Her heart had changed too. The night settled over the city like a heavy blanket, muffling sounds and secrets. Evelyn lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying the confrontation with Chloe. She wanted to believe that one night of kindness would be enough to bridge the gap between them. But deep inside, she knew that Chloe's resentment ran deeper than she wanted to admit. In the living room, Andrew sat quietly on the couch, his head bowed, hands folded in his lap. The room was dimly lit by a single lamp on the side table, casting shadows on the walls. His breathing was calm, but his mind was racing. Every small sound seemed amplified, every creak in the floorboards echoing like a drumbeat. He could feel the weight of Chloe's hostility even in her absence. Somewhere down the hall, Chloe was on the phone. Her voice, low but sharp, carried through the thin walls. Her words were hushed, but Andrew's keen ears caught enough to know she was plotting. Yes, I know who he really is, she whispered. Her voice turned silky, calculated. He's not just some blind beggar. I heard Daniel talking about him at the hospital. The name stuck in my head. Andrew Gold, the missing billionaire. She paused, a hint of a smile in her voice. Don't worry, I have a plan. He won't see me coming. Andrew's chest tightened. He closed his eyes, the memories flooding back, the years he'd spent hiding from the world, trying to escape the fake smiles and gold diggers who only cared about his money. When he lost his sight, he had hoped it would free him from the burden of his name. But even in darkness, the past had a way of finding him. In the kitchen, Chloe ended her call and emerged, her face composed in a practiced smile. She carried a tray with a steaming mug of tea. Evelyn was there, her expression tired but resolute. Chloe's voice dripped with sweetness. Evelyn, I made some tea for our guest. I want to make amends. Evelyn hesitated, suspicious but too exhausted to argue. She watched as Chloe handed the mug to Andrew, her fingers brushing his. Here you go, she said softly. I'm sorry for everything. Andrew accepted the mug, his fingers trembling. Thank you, he replied quietly, though his voice carried the weight of caution. Chloe's smile widened, but her eyes were cold. Evelyn watched the exchange, her gut twisting. Something felt wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. That night, Evelyn and Andrew sat together in the living room after Chloe had gone to bed. Evelyn's voice was soft as she spoke. She told him about her dreams, her struggles, her love for helping others. Andrew listened, his heart swelling with admiration and guilt. He wanted to tell her the truth, about his past, about his fortune, but the fear of losing her trust held him back. Evelyn paused, her eyes meeting his. Andrew, she asked gently, where did you come from before you came here? He shifted uncomfortably, his hands tightening around the mug. It's a long story, he said. Evelyn nodded, sensing his reluctance. "You don't have to tell me now," she whispered, "but I want you to know that you're safe here. Whatever your story is, it doesn't change who you are." Andrew's throat tightened. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that she would still see him the same way once she knew the truth. But deep down, he feared the same rejection he'd always known. He reached for her hand, his fingers brushing hers. "Thank you," he said, his voice breaking, "for everything." As the night deepened, Andrew sat alone in the living room, the darkness pressing against the windows. He thought of Daniel, his loyal assistant, the only one who had stuck by him after the accident. He remembered the heated discussions, the desperate plans to escape the relentless media, the constant pressure of being Andrew Gold. And now, here he was, in a small apartment with a woman who had shown him more kindness than anyone had in years. He vowed then and there that he would protect her from the world that had once tried to consume him. Meanwhile, in her room, Chloe sat on her bed, her phone glowing in the darkness. Her mind raced with possibilities. She knew Andrew was vulnerable. She knew he trusted Evelyn, and she knew how to exploit that trust. She smiled to herself, her plan forming like a spider's web. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about winning. Morning came too early. Evelyn had barely closed her eyes when the first rays of sunlight peeked through the thin curtains. She rubbed her face, trying to shake off the heaviness that had settled in her chest since the night before. Chloe's sudden change of attitude still lingered in her mind. Something was off, but Evelyn couldn't put her finger on it. She slipped out of bed and walked to the kitchen to make tea. The apartment was quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator. As she poured hot water over the tea bag, she heard a knock at the door. 3 sharp raps that sent a chill down her spine. She glanced at the clock. Too early for visitors. Evelyn opened the door slowly. Standing there, in a long brown dress with a matching headscarf, was Madame Ruth. Her eyes were sharp, her mouth a thin line. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. "Mom?" she whispered, surprise and dread colliding inside her chest. Madame Ruth's gaze swept the room, pausing on Andrew, who sat on the couch with his head bowed. "Who is that?" she demanded, her voice cold as steel. Evelyn's heart raced. She stepped aside, trying to keep her voice steady. "Mom, please listen. This is Andrew. He needed help. He's blind and was being mistreated in the market." Madame Ruth's eyes narrowed. "So you brought a blind beggar into our home?" Evelyn's throat tightened. "He's not a beggar," she insisted. "He's kind. He's respectful. He has nowhere else to go." Madame Ruth stepped inside, her presence filling the small space like a storm cloud. Chloe appeared from her room, arms folded, a smug smile on her lips. "Mom," she said sweetly, "I've been trying to tell her, but she won't listen. She's making this place a charity home." Evelyn's eyes darted to Chloe, hurt and betrayal mixing in her chest. "Chloe, please." Madame Ruth turned on Evelyn, her voice trembling with anger. "I raised you better than this," she snapped. "Bringing shame to this family with a street man?" Evelyn felt her heart shatter. "Mom, please," she begged, her voice breaking. "He's a good man. He deserves kindness. He's blind. He has no one." Madame Ruth shook her head. "Enough. He is not your responsibility. He is not your burden." Evelyn's hands trembled. "I chose to help him," she said softly. "I chose to love him." The room fell silent. Andrew's head lifted slightly, his expression unreadable. Chloe's eyes widened, a spark of something dangerous flashing there. Madame Ruth's voice dropped to a low, dangerous tone. "Love?" she spat. "You call this love?" Evelyn took a step forward, her chin lifted, her eyes wet but unflinching. "Yes," she said, "I love him." The air crackled with tension. Madame Ruth's hand trembled as she pointed at Andrew. "Get out," she ordered. "Leave this house and never come back." Evelyn's breath caught. "No," she whispered. "Please don't do this." Madame Ruth's eyes blazed. "If you choose him, you are no longer my daughter." Her words struck like a knife. Evelyn felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Andrew stood slowly, his hands steady despite the tremor in his voice. "I don't want to cause trouble," he said quietly. "I will go." Evelyn reached for his arm, tears streaming down her face. "No, Andrew, please don't." Madame Ruth's voice was cold. "Let him go." Evelyn's hands shook. "I can't," she whispered. Madame Ruth's face hardened. "Then you are no longer welcome in this family." The silence that followed was a chasm. Andrew turned to Evelyn, his voice low but steady. "I won't let you lose your family because of me," he said. Evelyn shook her head, her tears falling like rain. "You are my family now." Chloe's lips curled into a smirk. "Well, that's your choice," she said lightly. Evelyn's heart ached. She took a deep breath and turned to Madame Ruth, her voice soft but strong. "I love you, Mom," she said, "but I cannot abandon him. I won't." Madame Ruth's face crumbled for a moment, a flicker of pain crossing her features before she composed herself again. "Then leave," she said, "and don't come back." Evelyn's chest heaved with silent sobs. She turned to Andrew and took his hand. "Let's go," she whispered. Andrew nodded, his face pale but determined. They walked out of the apartment together, the door closing behind them with a soft but final click. In that moment, Evelyn felt the weight of her decision settle over her like a cloak. She had chosen love over comfort, compassion over tradition. And though the road ahead would be hard, she knew she had made the right choice. Outside, the city bustled with life, indifferent to the heartbreak unfolding in its midst. Evelyn held Andrew's hand tightly, vowing silently that she would never let him feel alone again. As they disappeared into the morning light, a new chapter of their story began. The days that followed were a blur of uncertainty and quiet determination. Evelyn and Andrew found a small guest house to stay in temporarily, a modest room with peeling paint and thin curtains. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. Evelyn spent her days working extra shifts at the hospital, while Andrew stayed behind, trying not to be a burden. Despite the chaos, their bond deepened with each shared meal and whispered conversation in the soft glow of evening light. One evening, Evelyn returned home exhausted, her eyes rimmed with fatigue. She paused at the doorway, noticing the silence. Something felt off. Inside, Andrew sat on the edge of the bed, his hands folded tightly in his lap. He looked up as she entered, his expression tense. "Evelyn," he said quietly, "Chloe came by this afternoon." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. "Chloe? Here?" She sat down beside him, her voice trembling. "What did she want?" Andrew's hands trembled slightly. She brought tea and fruit, smiling as if nothing had happened. She apologized, said she was wrong to judge me. Evelyn's chest tightened. "And you believed her?" Andrew shook his head. Her smile didn't reach her eyes, he said softly. "I know that look." Evelyn's breath caught. "What did she say?" Andrew hesitated, his voice low. "She said she wanted to make amends. She asked about my life before I lost my sight." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. Did you tell her? Andrew looked down. No, I didn't trust her. Evelyn exhaled slowly, relief flooding her chest. Thank you, she whispered. We have to be careful. Chloe's never been one to give up easily. Later that night, Evelyn found Chloe waiting outside the guest house, leaning against a street lamp. Her face glowed under the dim light, a practiced smile on her lips. Evelyn's stomach churned. Chloe, what are you doing here? Chloe straightened, her voice dripping with feigned sweetness. Just checking on you, making sure you're okay. Evelyn folded her arms. We're fine. You don't have to worry about us. Chloe's eyes darkened. Don't be so quick to dismiss me, she said. I've changed. I'm trying to be a better sister. Evelyn's laugh was brittle. You've never cared about being a sister. Chloe's smile slipped. You're making a mistake with him, she spat. He's not who you think he is. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. And you would know that, wouldn't you? Chloe leaned in, her voice cold. You think he's just some poor blind man, but he's not. He's Andrew Gold. Evelyn's breath caught. What are you talking about? Chloe's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. I overheard him talking to his assistant at the hospital. He's a billionaire, Evelyn. A billionaire pretending to be helpless. Evelyn's mind spun. She wanted to deny it, but the puzzle pieces fell into place. Andrew's calm confidence, his occasional slips into business jargon, the way he always seemed to know more than he let on. Chloe's voice turned sly. He's using you, Evelyn. You're just a charity project to him. Evelyn's heart ached, but she stood her ground. Even if that were true, she said, I'd still stand by him. Chloe's eyes flashed with fury. You're pathetic, she hissed. He'll never love you like I could. Evelyn's eyes blazed. This isn't about love for you, it's about money. Chloe's lips curled into a sneer. Think what you want, but mark my words, I'm not done. The next morning, Evelyn woke to find Andrew pale and sweating. His hands trembled as he reached for the cup of tea Chloe had left the night before. Evelyn's eyes widened in horror. Don't drink that, she cried, grabbing the cup and smelling it. A faint bitterness lingered. Chloe, Evelyn's voice shook. She tried to drug you. Andrew's eyes widened, his face pale. Evelyn's hands trembled as she poured the tea down the drain. We have to get out of here, she whispered. She's dangerous. Andrew's voice was calm but steady. I won't let her hurt you. Evelyn felt tears sting her eyes. And I won't let her hurt you, she replied. They packed their few belongings and left the guest house, determined to put distance between themselves and Chloe's venom. But deep inside, Evelyn knew this wasn't over. Chloe wouldn't stop until she had what she wanted. That night, in a small cafe miles away from the city, Andrew reached for Evelyn's hand. His voice was quiet but strong. I have to tell you something, he said. She looked at him, her heart pounding. I haven't been honest with you, he continued. My name is Andrew Gold. I was the CEO of a major tech company. I left it all when I lost my sight. I couldn't bear the pity, the fake friends, the constant pressure. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. Why didn't you tell me? Andrew's hands shook. I wanted to be seen for who I am, not what I have, he said. And with you, for the first time, I felt like I could be myself. Evelyn reached for his hand, her voice trembling. You should have trusted me, she whispered. Andrew's voice cracked. I was scared, Evelyn. Scared of losing you. Evelyn pressed his hand to her chest. I'm not going anywhere, she said softly. His breath caught. You really mean that? Evelyn nodded, her eyes shining. I love you, Andrew Gold, rich or poor, sighted or blind. I love you. Andrew's heart felt lighter than it had in years. Together they faced the world, knowing that love, real love, was worth every risk, every secret, every battle. And though Chloe's shadow still loomed, Evelyn and Andrew stood stronger than ever, ready to fight for their future. The early morning sun bathed the small guest house in a warm glow, casting long shadows across the worn wooden floor. Evelyn sat by the window, her hands wrapped around a chipped ceramic mug. She watched the world wake up, the city stretching and yawning with the promise of a new day. A sense of calm washed over her, a rare moment of peace after weeks of chaos. Behind her, Andrew stirred, his head turned toward the sound of birds outside the window. "Evelyn," he said softly, his voice still laced with sleep. Evelyn turned to face him, her eyes warm. "Yes?" Andrew reached for her hand, his fingers brushing hers with a tenderness that made her heart ache. "Today feels different," he said, a small smile playing on his lips. "Like a new beginning." Evelyn squeezed his hand gently. "It is," she whispered. "It's the day we start living without fear." The last few days had been a blur of movement and decisions. They had left Chloe's manipulations behind, had confronted the truth together, and had found a small apartment of their own in a quieter part of the city. It wasn't grand, but it felt safe. It felt like home. A knock at the door interrupted the quiet. Evelyn tensed for a moment, but when she opened it, relief flooded her chest. Daniel stood there, his face a mix of concern and cautious excitement. "Good morning," he greeted them, his eyes flicking from Evelyn to Andrew. "I hope I'm not intruding." Andrew shook his head. "Never, Daniel. Come in." Daniel stepped inside, his gaze landing on Evelyn. "I have the final paperwork for the surgery," he said. "The best doctors in the country are ready to help." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. She glanced at Andrew, her voice trembling. "Are you ready for this?" Andrew's smile was warm and strong. "I've never been more ready," he said. Evelyn's breath caught. She reached up to touch his face, her fingers brushing the faint scars near his temple. "I'll be with you every step of the way." The day of the surgery arrived faster than Evelyn had expected. The hospital was bright and sterile, the smell of antiseptic filling the air. Andrew sat in a wheelchair, his hands folded tightly in his lap. Evelyn stood beside him, her fingers laced with his. The surgeon, a kind-eyed woman named Dr. Patel, explained the procedure in calm, confident tones. Andrew listened intently, his expression unreadable. Evelyn felt her heart pound in her chest. She leaned in close. "I love you," she whispered. Andrew turned his head slightly, his lips curving into a soft smile. "I love you more than anything." They wheeled him away, leaving Evelyn standing in the hallway. The minutes dragged on, each second stretching into eternity. She tried to steady her breathing, tried to quiet the anxious thoughts that crowded her mind. What if it didn't work? What if he woke up and saw her differently? But deep down, she knew that Andrew loved her not for her face, but for her heart. Hours later, Dr. Patel emerged from the operating room, her face calm and reassuring. "The surgery went perfectly," she said. "He's awake now." Evelyn's knees went weak with relief. She followed the doctor into the recovery room, her heart in her throat. Andrew lay in the bed, his head propped up on pillows, a bandage over his eyes. His fingers twitched as he heard her approach. "Evelyn," he called softly. She rushed to his side, taking his hand in both of hers. "I'm here," she whispered. "I never left." A small smile played on his lips. "I can't wait to see you," he said, his voice trembling. Dr. Patel stepped forward. "Let's remove the bandage," she said gently. Evelyn held her breath as the doctor's hands worked quickly, carefully. The bandage fell away. Andrew's eyes blinked rapidly, adjusting to the light. Slowly, his gaze settled on her, his pupils focusing. Tears filled his eyes. "Evelyn," he whispered, his voice breaking, "you're even more beautiful than I imagined." Evelyn's heart swelled. She leaned in, pressing her forehead to his. "And you," she said softly, "you're perfect." Andrew's hands reached for her face, tracing the lines he had memorized through touch alone. "I can see you," he murmured. "I can finally see you." Evelyn laughed through her tears. "I'm here," she said. "I'm always here." Later that week, a small wedding ceremony took place in the garden of the apartment complex. It was simple, but filled with love. Daniel stood beside Andrew as his best man, a proud smile on his face. Evelyn wore a soft ivory dress, her hair pinned up in loose curls. The sun filtered through the trees, casting a golden glow over the gathering. As they exchanged vows, Evelyn's voice trembled with emotion. "I loved you before you could see me," she said. "I love the man you are inside." Andrew's voice was steady, but his eyes glistened with tears. "I saw you when the world was dark," he said. "And now that I can see the world again, I will never look away from you." They kissed, and the small crowd erupted in cheers. Evelyn's mother stood at the back, tears streaming down her face. When Evelyn turned to her, she opened her arms, her voice breaking. "I was wrong," she whispered. "I judged him before I knew him." Evelyn's tears fell freely as she embraced her mother. "We all make mistakes," she said softly, "but love makes us better." Andrew held Evelyn close as they walked into the sunset, their hearts beating in unison. No longer defined by secrets or fear, they faced the world together. Chloe was gone, her bitter words fading into the past. In that moment, Evelyn knew that love wasn't about wealth or status. It was about seeing the best in each other, even in the darkness. As they stepped into their new home, Andrew turned to her, his eyes filled with wonder. "This is just the beginning," he said. Evelyn smiled, her heart full. "The best beginnings always come after the hardest goodbyes," she whispered. And with that, they began their forever.